Hello everyone, so today we're going over the Insurgency Sandstorm community test environment patch notes and in-game assets. So for the first half of this video is going to be going through the patch notes. The second half, or whenever we finish, is going to be going through the in-game renders and gameplay of the new models of weapons as well as the new range. So first off, what is the community test environment? This is the way that Sandstorm is doing their future community testing. It's going to allow you to keep your primary Sandstorm install fresh and clean while installing a second version of Sandstorm, which is the newer version, right? So this is live right now. You can jump in and download it. It should be in your Steam library, and you can test and play all the new weapons. Just a disclaimer, of course, before we start, a lot of these things are not officially released yet. Things are subject to be added, changed, or removed. So let's get straight into it. First off, the patch notes coming for the next patch. Upgrade to Unreal Engine 4.21. Now, hopefully, as all these studios, OWI, NWI, for Squad and Postscriptum, and for Sandstorm, as they upgrade on the Unreal Engine, they'll get more tools to fix a lot of these bugs that they're running into, and hopefully get more performance increases as well. They fixed the jittering of character movement, which is great because in a lot of my hardcore videos, I would have a lot of content get flat out ruined because someone would just start vibrating profusely, and it would be like they're having a seizure. So thankfully, they've fixed this kind of bug. Normal scopes reduce issues with parts of the weapon disappearing. I've never really run into this, so I can't really say anything about this, but it's nice to see that they fixed this issue. Various performance improvements. Everyone's asking for better performance. I think it's because the first Insurgency ran so well. But obviously it's going to run well. It was on the source engine. And it was such a huge gap going from the source engine to UE4 that I think a lot of people are shocked when it comes to performance. Just because of the vast difference of frames they're getting because of the engine change. So hopefully with time, like I said, with the Unreal Engine improvements, they'll get better with their frames. Content, new arcade mode team deathmatch. So the arcade modes are going to be kind of like a flavor of the month thing where they're not always going to be there. They're going to be rotated out. And I think this is a great idea to liven up Sandstorm, add a whole bunch of different mechanics in or just some goofy stuff and keep the population, interested and engaged with different kind of game modes. Because I think a lot of the current game modes right now have just been played so much, especially since none of them are really new and we've had a lot of them from the first Insurgency. I think adding new arcadey, maybe interesting game modes that aren't necessarily, completely hardcore tactical is a great way to liven things up every now and then. Also, it will be available on community servers at all times, but just not officially supported. So I think this is great because it cycles them out, but people who have servers have the opportunity to keep that arcade mode if they want to play with, whoever they want to play with. So for example, if I want to host a team deathmatch server after it's been rotated out, that's great. I can, and I think we're going to do that so that I can play with you guys, have like a sub Sunday or something, and, get you guys in the server with me. Next thing up is what everyone is ranting and raving about, the new weapons. Of course, we will be going through these in-game after we finish the patch notes, so we're going to try to continue crunching through this as fast as possible. But the new weapons in Sandstorm right now are the MP5A5, the MP5A2, the 240 Bravo, the MG3, and the PF940. So the MP5A5 is going to the security forces, of course the newer, nicer model. It's also got extended mag attachments, which the MP5A2 does not, and this one's going to the Insurgents. The 240 Bravo, of course, bumping up in caliber from the 249. It's got a lot more recoil, as you'll see later in the video, but it's got that higher damage, so really cool to see. They've also, as we go further through these patch notes, they've reduced the recoil on the saw, so the saw is like a laser now. The MG3, of course, the MG42's newer, improved brother, is, of course, exactly what you're going to expect. That thing has a ridiculous fire rate. It's going to be awesome to have. Both these MMGs are coming with a 50-round bag, but have the option to have a 100-round box attachment. So, really cool to see extended mags on these things. You can really put out a lot of rounds with these new MMGs. I'm hoping, of course, that with these MMGs, you'll get some new ballistics for bullet penetration, and you'll be able to shoot through more walls or have more of that damage pass through walls with these MMGs. The PF940 was in Sandstorm before in the beta, but was removed, I think, due to licensing issues, but it is back now within Sandstorm, and I really like it because Glocks are awesome. I love how they look. And then, of course, you can increase the magazine size from the standard 17 rounds to 30. So you can pack a 30-round magazine in your sidearm, which, of course, is awesome. So really cool to see that. The new range map has been added in tutorials, and I gotta say, NWI does a great job of adding tools and assets for individuals to use, for new players to use, to learn how to play. The tutorial mission is great, their lessons are great, the range map is gonna help players get familiar with the recoil and things. It's really cool to see them adding this much support for new players, and I think games like Squad and Postscriptum can really learn from Sandstorm and pick up how to teach new players how to play the game. Characters. Reduced size of security heavy carrier backpack. It was kind of comically large before this patch. It looked like you could fit an entire another human body in the backpack. And I think it's cool and it's great because it looks cool, but it's just a little bit too big. So it's good that they reduced it. I do hope at some point we will get cosmetic skins for the backpacks, because I think that'd be really cool to see like different people with different backpacks, and then add like something else you could customize. So hopefully, NWI, if you're listening, get some backpack skins in there. New cosmetics. So we have the knuckles, fingerless hands, and of course we'll go through all of these as well in the video. Combat goggles, eyewear, Tropen Tarn camouflage. I don't know if that's how you say it, and more tattoos. I love that tattoos in Sandstorm. I love tattoos. They're awesome. I think they give your character a lot of character. That sounded weird, but yeah. Cool to see what kind of new tattoos they've added. Insurgents Aviator eyewear, which looks really cool. The 1-hole skull mask, 2-hole skull mask face wear, and more tattoos. I think they're about the same tattoos, so we'll see. We'll go through all this cosmetic stuff later in the video. Gameplay. Improve flashbangs to slow down player movement and look speed of those affected. I really think flashbangs needed a buff. You had to land a flashbang perfectly before this patch in order for it to do anything significant. If you landed it a little bit too far away or out of the angle, it would be really easy to just flash the person for like a split second and then they're fine. Now when you get hit by a flash, it slows you down and your look speed also gets affected. So even if you don't get a full flash off, you're still going to be able to affect the player, which is perfect because right now I would rather take a frag over a flash in almost every situation. So improving flashbangs, especially because they're 1 supply point cost, I think this is great, especially for push as well, because you'll be able to, get onto objective easier and push and keep people out. So great to see that they're buffing flashbangs. Weapon will pull back further when obstructed instead of pointing down close to an object. This is a great visual thing because right now in Sandstorm, if you're looking out of a window and you step left, the gun will snap from your shoulder straight down, and it's very unnatural. It looks very strange to see this weapon flickering from down and then up, because in real life you wouldn't do that as rapidly. It just looks funny. Whereas right now, when not right now, but in the patch, you'll be able to pull the weapon back instead of flicking it down when you hit something that blocks your barrel length. So really cool to see that because I think it'll add a lot to the immersion, especially with the hardcore videos. Weapon balance changes. This is very important stuff. Increased weight for FAL, G3A3, and the Mark 14 EBR. I think all three of these guns needed somewhat of a nerf, but I didn't really want them touching the bullet damage or recoil pattern because I think those were pretty significant. But they were very strong rifles, and I would almost take these three over any other gun in the game unless, I needed supply or weight. And so that's what they did. They tweaked the supply. I think they could, if they wanted to nerf it a bit further, even increase the supply cost, because these three guns are almost in my opinion, some of the best guns or best rifles for either faction. So it's good to see that they're paying attention to balance in that. Lowered Uzi's supply cost to 2 in versus and 4 in competitive. I really think the Uzi needed a buff just because the AKS was superior to it in almost every aspect. Damage, recoil, rate of fire. The AKS was just significantly better, and the Uzi needed something for people to incentivize people to take it. One of the only reasons why I would ever run a Uzi is for the weight. If you haven't seen my lightest kit video, I'll leave it as a description in the description right now or at the top right of your video. And it's great because you can run the Uzi fully kitted, drum mag and everything with no kit and no armor, and you'll be at 8% weight. I think that's the lightest you can ever get without, running just a pistol. So it's a really great kit for getting around the map fast. But aside from that, there was no real reason to take the Uzi. Now you can do that, and you can actually, take a couple more nades or do something else with those supply points. So I think it's a great change here to buff the Uzi because the Uzi was, in my opinion, a little bit weak. The MP7 extended mag has gotten nerfed. It's now more expensive, up to 4 in versus and 5 in competitive. I think the MP7 is definitely one of the best weapons for security because the rate of fire, low recoil, and like that insane damage, that output that you can do because of that fire rate is just gnarly. You can shred people at distance, you shred people at close range, minimal recoil. So they needed to do something. And one of the things that the MP7 is limited by is its magazine capacity because of that rate of fire. So decreasing the ability to use the extended magazine, I think balances it in a nice position rather than going after the fire rate or the damage or the recoil. This is a really creative way to balance the MP7. Moving on to the decreased recoil on the 249 and the PKM. I don't know about this. I feel like the 249 and the PKM before this patch were very manageable, but now they're like lasers, and you'll see that later on in the video. But it's insane. These things are rapid accurate, and that kind of ties in to another change right here, 2 bullet points down, which we'll get into in a second. I removed AP rounds from the M249. I didn't even know these existed, so that's okay. But the increased time to aim down sights for machine guns. Now, snap firing with the machine guns was really effective before this patch. You could sit far back, deploy your bipod, unscope, and just watch for movement on your map, like or on your screen, the entirety of like that 90 degrees that you have in front of you. And then just as soon as you saw movement, you just right click, snap it, and kill them. And it was really overpowered because that aim down sight times for the MGs was just so low that you could do that. Now, I hope they've increased that aim down sight time long enough for individuals to have a shot at beating that time to aim down sight. So basically, now you're going to have to be ready with the MG, aim down on a certain lane and ready to fire, rather than just snapping like all the way on the left side of the map, all the way on the right side of the map, unzoom, left side, right side. Like, it was insane before. It was like you could just zoom in and nail someone. So hopefully this increased time to aim down sights kind of nerfs that and puts the MG in a better position to lock down a lane rather than lock down the entirety of the map. Reduced shotgun pellet velocity. We're getting into the shotgun nerfs now. A lot of you know how OP the shotgun is. Just the flechette rounds, the range, the damage, it was ridiculous. You could one-shot someone with a shotgun at like 75 meters. So this is NWI's response to that. So first off, they're decreasing the damage at long range by reducing the pellet velocity. Next, they're increasing the flechette spread so that it is now like that of the standard shells. Before, the flechette rounds had a really tight spread and you can knock people off at a large distance. Now it's going to be a little bit harder to do that. Fire support changes. They've nerfed fire support across the board, increasing cooldowns. I think this is great. But the biggest thing here is the removal of the gunship. Now, this is very important because the gunship adds a lot of atmosphere in versus. And to have it removed is kind of questionable. But when you think about it, it was kind of overpowered. It would just fuck shit up. You could do anything you wanted while the gunship was up, and it was really hard to get rid of because they would dodge rockets like crazy. So I think removing the gunship kind of balances versus the insurgents until the insurgents get a good response. Until they have something as powerful as the gunship, I think it's okay to remove it for now. But I would genuinely like to see them add more insurgent call-ins and something that rivals the gunship. Now, a couple other changes. They've widened the radius of the support helicopters so the door gunners can shoot behind. That's great. That's fine. They've nerfed the gunship. Of course, this doesn't really matter too much anymore because it's taken out of versus, but it can no longer shoot things to its rear. And then this is a really big one. This is what I'm talking about, is that it's so hard to shoot helicopters down now because the dodge capacity of them is insane. Now the angle that the pilots can see the rockets is narrowed, so hopefully it's going to be much easier to hit the helicopters now. But my God, out of like the last couple months, I think I've only shot down one helicopter just because they see the rocket and they swerve out of the way. You can lead it properly and get the proper angle, but as soon as that thing dodges, like, you can't hit it anymore. So that's really cool to see that they're paying attention to that, because that's a really small change that actually will affect the game a lot, I think. Co-op. Bots now use all weapons, ammo carriers, armor, and explosives available to their class rather than a set loadout. I think this is great because it's going to add a lot more variety within co-op. It's kind of boring to see the same kind of bot come after you again and again and again. Seeing the same kit, you know, whether it's like pistols. I don't know why the bots love to use pistols, but there's like a pistol loadout right now, and like half the bots will use it. It's ridiculous. I'd like to see more variety. It adds a lot more character to the games. The LGMS, laser guided Molotov system. So you've seen this in a couple of the hardcore videos as well, where a Molotov will come out of nowhere and land right on top of you because the bots are just gods at the game. So gladly they've removed it. That shouldn't happen anymore, though I'm sure we're going to see a couple more instances of this as we play more. But this reminds me a lot of Call of Duty 4 when you would play on the insane difficulty or whatever the highest difficulty was. and that grenade would just come at you out of nowhere. You'd be locking down a piece of cover, and all of a sudden, you'd see that frag indication right underneath you. So I'm glad that they're removing this. I think all bots have these kind of issues. It comes with the territory. You know, you get aim bots or Molotovs or grenade bots that are just ridiculous. Fixed bots not ignoring targets in spawn zones correctly, so you shouldn't get spawn killed by bots anymore in co-op. Competitive, very big change here. Tiebreaker. If a match ends in a tie, a team will go to a 2-point lead over, or will need a 2-point lead over the other team with a faction switch every round. This is great because before, when you played competitive and you'd hit a tie, you would go, oh shit, I want to win this tie now. I want to break this tie. But it would just end. And it was a big letdown. It was like, I don't know. It's like it felt like a waste of time. I don't like when games end in a tie unless it's like a very, very close tie. Like if it's going back and forth, and eventually it needs to end, sure, have it end in a tie. But if it's just 2 rounds each, it feels like a waste of time to end the game in a tie because like 90% of the games, the comp games that I've played, ended with a tie. It was really strange. So it's good to see that because you get kind of like sweaty at the end now with the tiebreaker, and it makes things more competitive. So I really can get behind the tiebreaker. Lever penalties, great. Just like Rainbow Six Siege, you know, I hate levers. They ruin the game. They need to get punished. And then a couple balancing, they added the security optics to insurgent classes and vice versa. So they're making all those optics available. Just a couple user experience changes. They added a connectivity issue icon, so if you're having some lag issues, it'll show you. This is a big one. Made tactical maps show restricted areas. So before, it was very hard to tell where the restricted areas were because it wasn't marked on the map. You would just be walking all over the place, and then all of a sudden, boom, red zone, you can't shoot. So now you can hopefully plan your movements a little bit better and be able to maintain that zone and make sure you're always in a zone where you can shoot, rather than, you know, out of nowhere just walking and having that warning show up in your face. A couple other quality of life improvements with supply points, making the counter clearer for the reinforcements. This is really important because knowing when a team comes off their reinforcement wave is really important and really shows when you're a good player. If you can pay attention to this and use this information, you can get yourself in really good locations to knock down a large portion of the enemy team, or just know where enemy players are on the map. So this is really good that they're making it more visible. Just making things more visible overall. A couple cool things. Added vote kick for community servers. I really think that they need vote kick for public servers, but NWI will do what it wants to do. But I think the amount of times that vote kick gets manipulated is less than the amount of time that vote kicks actually are needed. And then a couple known issues. Arms may be missing occasionally. Some issues with the scopes, and then lessons not working, penalty not working. So that's all the patch notes, all the balance changes, and all that good stuff right here. Of course, if you want to go through it on your own, I'll leave it as a link in the description. But now, in this video, we're going to be going on into the range and checking out all the new content as far as the range, the new cosmetics, the new weapons, and yeah, you guys will be able to see that. Once again, this is live now, so if you want to see and play with these yourself, check out the CTE, which should be in your Steam library. With that all out of the way, let's jump straight in game. Alright, so we're in the range now, and we're going to be showing you all the attachments, all the weapons that are new, the recoil, the reload animations, all that good stuff. So we're just going to jump straight into it. So on the range, you have access to every gun and every attachment to the gun, even the ones that you won't have in versus. We're going to be starting off with the MP5s. So first you have the A2 and the A5 variants. The A2 goes to the insurgent forces, and the only difference between the A2 and A5 that I can really note is that obviously the model is different, but also the A5, which goes to the security forces, has a burst mode as well as an extended mag that you can put on it. Otherwise, you get pretty much the standard kind of attachments you would get for any other SMG for each respective side. Moving on to the 240 Bravo. This thing shoots 7.62. The recoil is nutty. It does have a 50 round magazine at start, but you can get a box mag to extend that to 100. This thing has a lot of damage, obviously, 7.62, and a lot of recoil that goes with that. You should have seen that earlier in the video while we were using it. This thing will jerk around like crazy. But standard LMG attachments, or MMG attachments that you would get with the saw, nothing new here. Moving on to the MG3, looks just like the MG42, just a little different. 50 round mag, just like the 240 Bravo. You can put a box mag on for 100 rounds. Very low recoil on the MG3, surprisingly enough. It is shooting 7.62, and the rate of fire is, of course, still insane. However, the barrel attachments are different. You can only put a suppressor, no flash header or compensator for the MG3. And finally, the last gun that is new in the game right now is actually the PF940. This was back in the original beta for Sandstorm, but they had to take it out. It's back now. As you can see, you can put your standard barrel attachments, magazine, and laser sight on here. However, you will note there is no quick draw holster. So I'm wondering if they're not going to add that in, or if they're just going to add it in at a later date. Magazine capacity for this thing is at 17, but you can extend that to 31, which is gnarly. So without further ado, let's get straight into showing you the reload animations for each of these guns and the recoil patterns. So I think it's logical to start with the MP5s. We'll start with the A2, which is the Insurgent variant. We're not going to run any attachments on here, so we're just going to run them stock. Keep in mind, this is the beta, or the CTE, so there's some issues here that might arise, whether it be like graphical or animation bugs, so that will get fixed before this gets pushed to the live branch of Sandstorm, so hopefully, you know, all that gets ironed out. But of course, here now at the range, you have an observer AI here, so you can practice calling and stuff as the commander. You also have a range computer, which lets you call in a whole bunch of different things. For example, an enemy squad, you can actually spawn in AI, and they should come over the ridge here momentarily. Yep, there they are. As you can see, the MP5, we're going to a quick reload right there. Very low recoil. But also not really too much damage here. It does take a couple rounds to kill these guys, and I believe some of them are wearing armor. And also the range damage drop-off is pretty significant. Use the block here. Oh. So as you can see, it is a little buggy just because of, where'd this guy go? I guess he disappears. Because of the CTE. Guys are running around everywhere. Where's this guy? But yeah, you have some targets down here you can hit. You really want to practice, you know, using your mouse and stuff. Some cans and stuff. A lot of stuff for you to shoot. But yeah, you can call in enemy squads, enemy helicopters to shoot down, or even a technical, and then you can, of course, reset them. We're not really going to be messing with that anymore just because it is a little bit buggy. But yeah, let's jump into the A5 now. So we're going to go and change our loadout to grab the A5. Once again, the only real difference between the A2 and the A5 is that the A5 has burst, which I'll demonstrate now. We'll do a normal reload.
I'm reloading.
And then, of course, full auto. We'll do a fast reload. So cool stuff. I'll do that for the PF 940 as well. So normal reload.
I need a reload.
And a fast reload. All right, we'll go on to the MMGs here now. So let me switch our kit up. Let's grab the 240 to begin. Right here. We'll also put on the extended mag just because we can. As you can see, this is a bug right here, how the weapon comes out. You got to resupply to fix that. But yeah, this thing has a lot of recoil if you didn't catch it earlier. It's incredibly hard, especially when you have any kind of optic on here, to see what you're shooting after you start holding down that trigger. You will note that there is a slight delay now when you aim down sight in the MG. It does take a little bit longer than before. So it's a good nerf, I think. It's much needed. We'll do a reload here. Yeah, and that's the 240 Bravo. We'll go on to the MG3 now. All right, and we'll grab the suppressor and the extended mag for this.
Okay.
Okay. So as you can see, the recoil on the MG3 is negligible. This thing is very easy to control. It's very easy to see your sight picture. And the rate of fire, of course, obviously, is absolutely nutty. We'll do a reload here.
I need a sec.
And yeah, that's the 240. So that's pretty much all the stuff you've got here in the range and the new guns in game. Once again, those MMGs obviously locked to the gunner class, and the MP5s are locked to breacher. So a couple cool things here. Really excited for this content patch to hit live. It's been a while since not OWI, excuse me, NWI has updated their game, and I'd love to see more maps and more game modes come out. I think I played a little bit of the team deathmatch. It was a lot of fun, but I really think that they need to work on their game modes because we've been playing the same game modes for a long time. Anyways, I hope you do enjoy today's video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for future content updates and stuff like that. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.